Jobby.
Oh shit! Hey, hey,
Everybody, welcome Jobby,
what's up?
the man. So,
Oh, damn, it's good to be here, man.
hell yeah.
This has been kind of a long time coming, and I'm pretty excited to be on here.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing an Ava
Yeah,
in-depth review and analysis just because of how amazing the show is.
yeah.
And
Like ever since you watched it.
yeah, ever since I watched it.
Yeah.
I hadn't actually seen it, and it was just incredible because I didn't know it even existed until recently, unfortunately, when it came on YouTube, or sorry, on Netflix.
Netflix,
Yeah,
yeah.
and after the Netflix release, I was like, oh, wow, like, and then you suggested I watch it, and I watched it, and then it's right up my alley in terms of
Yeah, and I knew it would be.
occult stuff,
Occult stuff, a bunch of like symbology and all that.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
that excited me to kind of take some notes on it, and
You went all in.
yeah, definitely.
Like all I have right now for this deep dive analysis is like first viewing from high school and second viewing from like a few days ago. So it's all in my mind and like a few pages of wiki material, but I think I could I could catch up.
Yeah. No, I didn't. For me, it wasn't like, oh my god, like full on either, because I just stayed up really late, and I fucking took a bunch of notes like real quick. Probably shouldn't have stayed up that late. I stayed up till like 3 a.m, just writing stuff down. And the cool part is that after I wrote it down, I feel like I don't really need it. Like now I can. It's just like it's in here now.
And that's the curse of the Ava. It gets within you. It gets inside your psyche.
Yeah, and it
takes over.
It's great, and so we've got. I can see you've got some set toys here.
Some model kits from the time the show came out.
That's pretty amazing. Those things are now probably as old as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, older, like older in terms of me. Like what these came. I don't know. They're a little bit younger. A little bit younger. Like 2 years younger than me.
That's crazy. Yeah. And they're in such excellent condition. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
So,
that was during I got these like during my high school days. Like just went on eBay, just so I can try to find them. Like that one, the mass produced one. That was a tough get.
Ooh. That's my favorite one.
That one's sick.
Yeah. So I kind of like, you probably know more about the franchise and the specifics and the anime, the producer, and all of the
like the technical
aspect of it. I'm more probably gonna focus on my interpretation of it.
There's a lot of ways to look at it. You can do a psychological analysis. You can do a symbolic analysis. You can do a plot analysis if you want, but everyone has done that already. Like a timeline analysis. Everyone's done that.
Let's do like so I'll start it off with like the series of events. So let's kind of review that.
All right. Yeah.
So
like from episode 1?
Yeah, kind of like in general. So
okay.
So if we were to think about Evangelion, the series of events, and I mean the main timeline, not anything else.
Yeah, not focusing on the TV show and the movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Forgetting all the other what do they call them? Non-canon worlds,
like the spin-offs and all that, like
the different mangas. And
original
shit,
canon.
Canon. Yeah. So when we talk about the original canon, right? Well, we can start off with the name. So it's Neon
Genesis
Evangelion.
Or Shinsekai Evangelion.
Yeah. So for me, that's kind of like a new. For me, that means, if you break it down into language translation, new interpretation of Genesis. That's what that means, right?
Yeah.
So
the official translation, like how the marketing title is the new gospel for the new century. I think that's what it is.
Gospel for the See, it makes perfect sense. So immediately, me being someone who has read different translations of the Bible and the Torah and things like this, I quickly grasped the title and was like, oh, like, so maybe this has to do with a reinterpretation of the Torah, which is like the first testament of the Bible, right? So that was my first like clue to start looking for, kind of imagery and subtle, like, correlations.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. So one of the so we know the title represents Genesis, the first book of the Torah, and so now when we look at so the first episode is Shinji, right? And he's this is kind of like the intro to the cartoon, and he's going off to
Tokyo 3.
To Tokyo 3.
Yeah.
We know Tokyo 3 is like the last stronghold or whatever after the second impact. So we know that there was a first impact, right? Because they call it the second impact. We know that there was a second impact, recent.
Yeah.
It was a recent collision or event, and that happened 15 years prior. So that happened on Y2K. Right?
Within the timeline of the show. That's right.
Yeah, so that happened in the year 2000, the second impact.
Because the show takes place in 2015, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and the second impact happened in the year 2000. So according to the show, which is really cool because like that's like also right up our alley. Like and then it was made in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
96.
Yeah. So, it was made it was made the year Tupac got smoked. So,
Cosmic coincidence.
Yeah. So,
are you saying Tupac's death was the real life second impact?
That's the second impact, bro. That's the second impact. But so, all right. So we know that there was second impact, fucked everything up, and then there were some survivors, and then and now everyone thinks that there's going to be a third impact, right? And the people, so there is an organization called SEAL, or Sealy, however you want to say that shit.
Like, they pronounce
Zayla,
it like 5 different
however
names.
The fuck they say it.
Soul in German. That's what it is. That's the point.
So these dudes are like a secret cabal that are gathering together, right? And they're meeting, and they want they have a particular agenda, right? And Nerve, which is the operation that controls the Avas and the creation of the Avas, Nerve is an umbrella organization.
Yeah, they're like a
SEAL,
like a pseudo military wing.
Of SEAL.
Of SEAL, yeah.
And SEAL has many sub umbrella organizations like that. And,
like there's Nerve, there's the. Well, that's kind of a spoiler, right? Like full spoilers.
Sorry.
We're like,
we're gonna fuck this up. So if you haven't watched it, don't listen to it.
Don't listen to this. Watch this. Watch this after. Like another one of like SEAL's, I guess like puppet wings. Like as we find out later, is like the Marduk Institute, which is like the place where they select the candidates for the Ava. So it's like they had this pretense, like, oh, they're like scientifically selected to be Ava pilots, but then it turns out, like, after the whole conspiracy plot at the end of the series, it's like, oh no, that place belongs to SEAL too. So they were controlling everything.
Yeah, that's a crazy thing that once you realize that they were selecting candidates to pilot Avas based on the predisposition of their mothers. Yeah, so once you figure that out, you're like, whoa.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why they're all kids.
That's why they're all kids. So let's talk about some of the symbology in the in even just the intro. So in the intro...
Oh, yeah, the intro's packed with it. And before we get into that, let me respond to a common criticism of this kind of analysis, because there's a lot of people that are like, it ain't that deep, right?
Yeah.
Like, it ain't that deep. Like, you're just looking into it. Oh, the director himself said, like, oh, we just used these symbols because it looked cool. Well, let me tell you something. He didn't say that. That was a production designer. The production designer was like, oh, yeah, like, we use these Christian symbols because they look cool. But Hideaki Anno himself was like, oh, no, I was trying to, like, I forgot the exact quote. like maybe you could pull it up, but it's like he was saying like he wanted to come up with like some new symbolic meaning or something along those lines, but like it wasn't just because they look cool.
No, that's crazy to say. That it's because the series was created as this is just eye candy. This is just because it's in the title, it's in the symbology, it's in.
And when you look at the story itself, it's like all of the symbols tie into the story so well. So it's like, how could it not be intentional?
Yeah, it's in the plot, and then like you said, like Jordan Peterson said, how can you possibly design something so intricate, frame by frame?
That's right. Yeah. Because it's animation, that makes it even more intentional. Exactly. Because they had to go in there for hours on end looking at the same thing over and over.
Over and over.
Yeah.
So
like at a point, they're like, oh, maybe that doesn't look as cool. We could change it. But no, they didn't.
No, they did not. Yeah. So we'll look at some of the symbology that's used here in Evangelion. So here we can pull up some of it so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on. Here, I use DuckDuckGo. Fuck Google. So we can start with the first symbol that we see is the tree of life, right? And we see this is a Kabbalistic symbol, and we see it like immediately as when the show opens. You're gonna get taken down with your humming. So
it's too on key.
What the heck? I don't want your fucking Jujubee Tree of Life. Let's see.
That should be it.
So we get this symbol.
Yeah, that thing shows up everywhere.
We get the Kabbalistic Tree of Life here. So
like probably that one exactly too.
It's this one exactly.
The intro.
That's exactly right. So they put in the Tree of Life, which is instantly gives you the whole plot of the story. Just as soon as they input this symbol, they automatically point you to the direction which you need to look to figure out exactly what the show is about. And I'll tell you why. Because
well, let me tell you, I don't know why yet.
Well, this Tree of Life here, right? Once this is like a piece of information that isn't really readily available to us Gentiles or to anyone else. The only people that this is kind of like a word of mouth, passed by through oral tradition type of information that even I don't really understand fully, because you can read the book, but the interpretation is based on a word of mouth oral translation. So we might not even know it unless we were, maybe like Hasidic Jews or something like that. But they believe in something called the Sephirot. So we'll go and we'll Wikipedia what the Sephirot means. This is really crazy because the Sephirot is described as a superconscious will that is beyond conscious intellect, right? And this is like, you can think of the Sephirot as the idea of the LCL, right? And that becoming one. So the people who worship the Tree of Life and who know what the Sephirot is, they are trying to reach instrumentality, essentially. There are people in this world who exist whose purpose in spirituality is to reach instrumentality.
To become one with everyone.
And the Sephirot is one of the books that talks specifically about that, about instrumentality. About that concept of instrumentality. That's a really trippy thing. They actually, and I have it written here, they call it the reunification of the separation of life. So that's what they call it. And so how do they do that? So the Tree of Life is the separation, the fragmentation of the creation, right? The one individual creation. So if the separation of life, the fragmentation, right? The fractal breaking up of life into individual consciousness, right? If that is the Tree of Life, literally, right? the only way to go back to one is to destroy the tree of life.
To lower the AT fields.
Yeah. So the way to do that, according to them, in the Sephiroth, is well, we already know instrumentality.
Right.
So there are people who do believe this, and this is the key idea of the Sephiroth and in the Kabbalah, and you can see the imagery is there. I mean, they've got it. It's right there. And so in this belief of the Sephiroth, there's also the belief of the tree of life, which is the fragmentation of life, and kind of like the power behind gods. So you can think of that as what gives Adam the power to be Adam, right? And then there is the tree of knowledge, which is why Adam and Eve were forbidden to eat from the tree of knowledge, because if they contain the tree of life and they merge with the tree of knowledge, then we know that is blasphemy, and they're cast out of Eden, right? So it all has to do with all these things. It's essentially a story of creation. It's not a mythos. It's not like some crazy made up. Because you're right about the criticisms not being so deep. Because one thing that was really annoying after like seeing a few reviews and a few breakdowns on the subject, people kept on saying that they were disappointed that it was aliens. Like they were like, oh yeah, like such an easy explanation. Like they're tired of seeing aliens and everything.
You mean these people who are doing these analyses?
Yeah. They dislike the fact that it has to do with aliens and space and cosmos and God. They much rather would have the show focus on interpersonal relationships between the characters,
which it does.
It does. Yeah. But to me, that's just kind of like the cloak used to kind of cover up the underlying story, right? So
I kind of see it as more of a different layer. It's a layer with its own merits, like the whole interpersonal stuff, because like that's another, like I said, it's another level of analysis you can give to the show, is the psychological aspect of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but like foundationally, it would be all this stuff.
Yeah, you're right. This is the underlying layer, and then we have the psychoanalytical layer of like the breakdown of why, our thought process and like how we go about existence.
It's like weaving this kind of thing, like weaving the concept of the fragmentation of life into a psychoanalytical way of looking at things, where like they have the metaphor of the AT field. The AT field in the show, it's basically a weaponized personal space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that there are several different layers to the story.
Yeah.
Beginning with the underlying layer of the religious or metaphysical aspect,
right.
And then we have the interpersonal aspect, and then we have the timeline aspect, and so
we even have like the individual aspect of like each of the characters' pathologies. Everyone is sick.
Yeah, which is cool because
everyone is sick in the show.
The self-discovery is amazing, in the show. Like that's like the best part, in my opinion. Like when everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so let's talk a little more about like some specifics. So we know that
Yeah, this is just the intro.
Yeah, this is just the intro. So we know that according to the show, and we're not going to go by the timeline of the show because it's everywhere. So we'll just go like from the beginning of time, which is there was a first impact, right?
Yeah.
And the first impact occurred 6 billion something years ago.
Like the first impact is an actual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from a scientific perspective, that can be interpreted certain ways, and but in this series it happened 6 billion years ago or whatever, and we know that the egg of life, right? So the way the story breaks down is we know that the creation myth is that life is spread out in the cosmos by gods, right? And these gods send eggs of life to every planet. And it can only have one seed at a time. So only one egg can be in one planet at any given time, right? And then the egg is essentially has an angel in it, and the angel will come out of the egg, spread out, and kind of like populate the earth and then create humans, right? So that means that every angel has the capability of becoming humanity.
Right.
Humanity is the ultimate end goal of creation, right? That's what the ultimate life form with perfect.
I get like within the context of the show, yeah.
Yeah, within the context. This is still all within the context of the show.
Yeah.
So
I think like the actual first impact is like the creation of the moon, right?
Yep. Yeah. The creation of the moon.
So they got that, like, it's cool. They got that, and then they made this whole.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then we know that the black moon is what they call it in the show, is the egg of life, right? Which hits the earth and is buried under the earth now, but it still exists on Earth. So this is a secret that, these secret cabals like seal, like they know all this, right? They know creation.
According to the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, which is even, there's not even, wait.
Yeah.
So
but like that's how they know.
That's apparently. How they know, yeah. So the egg hits the fucking earth, and now, Lilith spreads her LCL across the earth, and now we have humanity, right?
The Lilim.
The Lilin, yeah. So we are all one angel. We are all one.
Collectively, yeah.
We are just separations of it, fragmentations of one angel. We can all be one if we want to, but the angel decides to fragment itself in order to create boundaries and limitations so that it can not feel lonely, right? That's the whole goal.
Yeah, that's like a whole theme of the show.
Yeah, the whole theme is that suffering is worth combating loneliness. So it's the lesser of two evils. So if the angel does this, right, we know that only one angel can be on one earth or one planet at any given moment, right? So if another angel decides to descend on the same planet, that is when an impact would occur, because the two angels cannot occupy the same space, and so one of them has to go. And when that occurs, the gods that created the angels and the eggs of life kind of had like a preemptive plan for in case there were multiple eggs of life in the same earth. So they provided what they call the Spear of Longinus, which you have here on the desk right there.
There we go. Hey.
So
you know they made some chopsticks that are shaped like.
Oh hell yeah, dude! That's not a chopstick. That's a fork. I'd eat with that. I'd eat with that all day.
Fuck yeah. Let's get into the spear. So
we know that the Spear of Longinus is a device sent from the gods.
Or like these precursors.
Yeah. It's like the only defense mechanism for each individual angel to be able to fend off other offending angels who want to occupy the same space. The spear is so powerful, it will pierce through any AT fields created by any life form, right? And then so that it can reunify the angel, the offending angel, back into LCL, so it can get the fuck out of Dodge. So we know that that's what the Spear of Longinus is designed for. At least that's what I know about it.
I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah. So, like within how, based on what you see.
Based on what we see in the show, and some of it was released later on in time in like a video game, for like Nintendo 64 and shit.
Yeah, it was like a PS2 game, I think.
A
bunch of like supplementary material was on that.
Yeah, and they kind of confirmed, which is even cooler. It was like an Easter egg. They were like, here, for all you guys that really want to solidify these theories,
deep lore.
Boom, it's pretty awesome that they did that. And I hear that the creator was involved in releasing those secret documents in the
I think so.
Yeah. So we know that we have an egg of life. We have the Spear of Longinus as the defender for that one particular angel that occupies any given planet at any time. We know that there are two eggs of life on Earth. And in the series, they talk about this. They say that the geofront, right?
Yeah.
Which is the underground base.
Yeah, where the Nerve HQ is located.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the geofront, they used the egg of life as a geofront, as a super stronghold, right? Because they knew how strong it was, and and it's buried, and like it's a perfect place to set up camp. So that's the geofront, and they have a pyramid-shaped installation inside of the geofront, which is really interesting. And the inversion of it is also really trippy. It's like it has its own gravitational field or something, but something's going on down there where like everything's backwards and shit.
Yeah. It's like if I'm remembering correctly, when they descend for the first time, like everything's like upside down, right? Like that's like the submerged Tokyo 3 buildings.
Exactly.
They kind of retract.
They retract. Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So we know that.
Cool
yeah. And so they have a pyramid inside of the egg of life of creation, which kind of is hinting at the true purpose of our pyramids that we have on Earth. I think it's like some correlation could be made there as to
I think so.
what the true intent of the pyramids were in their time. And
like you know Hideaki Anno was like reading about that shit too when he made that a pyramid.
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure, he must have. It is well put together. Like
like that guy went to the library for sure.
Yeah. So we see that that they use this egg to set up camp, but we also know that there was another egg where the second impact happened.
Yeah,
so,
the Antarctica one.
Yeah, so according to Eva Evangelion story, the second impact occurred in Antarctica, and that's where the Adam egg was, right?
Yeah.
And the Adam egg, essentially, it was there, it was dormant, right? It was put to sleep, and it wasn't active. And only Lilith was active, which is what humanity is in the show. Existence is based on the god or
Lilith.
the angel Lilith.
Yeah.
Not a god, an angel. And so then we know that Adam is still on Earth in that egg, right? But is retreated in the egg. And so the people that are seeking, someone has a manuscript, which was also provided. This is the third thing that was provided with the Spear of Longinus. So let's break those three most important items down. So we have the Egg of Life. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
And then we have the Spear of Longinus, which is actually a real thing.
Right. It's based on something. It's like we'll get into it.
It's based on the spear that was used to
pierce Jesus,
the Holy Lance.
My man Jesus.
So look, I mean, to say that this is like absolutely coincidence or like just like
used to suggest that the symbols were used carelessly.
Yeah, for aesthetic, that's ridiculous. Because look,
I mean, sure they are aesthetic, but
yeah, that's just a bonus.
That's a bonus.
So we know that the Spear of Longinus is what was used to pierce Jesus, right, in the crucifixion, and then now we'll talk about the third object, which are the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were something a document, a manuscript that came with the Spear of Longinus, in order to kind of inform us how to use the spear and how to. Or in the series, I should say.
Yeah.
It informs them how to use the spear.
It's like an instruction, like a cosmic instructional manual.
Exactly. for how to survive as an angel. It tells you, God was like, I'm going to shoot you out to a planet, right? And then you're going to have to create humans. And then I'm going to give you the spear. And in case shit goes fucking haywire, you use the spear,
Yeah.
That's basically it. But in real life, the Dead Sea Scrolls is a manuscript that was found in the Qumran caves. And this manuscript is pretty crazy because it's the oldest version of the Bible that we have. So it's the most accurate, oldest version, and it goes against everything that the Bible says for the most part. That's plenty of books were taken out and redacted. This shows how much redaction had occurred over time. Up until our version of the King James.
Would you say like this is the original copy or this is just the oldest one?
It's just the oldest one. It's not the original one. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing is that most people don't know that when you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, right, it has a lot of things about, you know, the Bible, but the crazy thing is that there's a Dead Sea copper scroll. So and this is something that's really wild because it's actually stunted. Scientists haven't been able to really figure out how is this possible that someone could have created a Dead Sea Scroll out of pure copper. And I think it's a perfect mix of like copper and some amount of tin, which is really wild because that means that the metallurgy in the time was not really like, you know, we think that everyone was a bum who wasn't us, you know, like everyone in
That's
the past.
the popular.
Yeah, like they must have been cavemen and they must have been like
barbarians.
Yeah. So this is the copper scroll. You can see this is like a replica of the copper scroll because, of course, like us peasants can have access to the real one. But it's really trippy, dude, because this scroll has nothing to do with the other scrolls. This scroll is it's like a treasure hunt. It tells you where to go to find particular treasures.
Oh shit!
Yeah, people have tried to break this down. And
it's a MacGuffin map. Like
yeah, but people believe that
it's a map to the Chaos Emerald.
It could be a way to recreate the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, so the Ark of the Covenant is something else in the Bible that is a piece of technology that you can think of it in the Ava series as an S2 drive hidden on Earth, right? That was full of power. That so the Copper Scroll is kind of like a cool like I think the fact that they talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls will lead you to the Copper Scroll and lead you to the whole introduction of the Ark of the Covenant and what that means. So, and it might sound like a stretch, I know, but I don't think so because
it fits with the plot of the story.
Exactly.
Like if you see the Ark is like the S2 drive, which is a source of unlimited power. It's like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we know that we have these three items. We know that the second impact was created when what's Shinji's dad's name?
Gendo.
Gendo.
Yeah.
Gendo, that fucking asshole. So we know that this fucker goes to Antarctica. And we know that he hates himself so much.
Yeah, at the end, we figure out.
We figure out he hates himself so much that he doesn't want to even give his son love because he doesn't want to reciprocate it. He doesn't want to be loved.
Yeah.
He am I right to assume that he murdered his wife?
No, I think that's what Shinji saw it as, but I think the wife, well, yeah, of course, there's full spoilers, but like the wife kind of willingly gave herself up to Unit 1, you know, to be with it. And I guess Shinji kind of saw that as a child, and then, like, you know, his hatred for his father kind of led him to twist that into, like, oh, my father murdered my mother.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I see where that story lies now. So, okay, so she goes into the Ava willingly.
Willingly, yeah.
She also kind of seeks the same. She understands what her husband wants, right, and their end goal. Mm-hmm. So she agrees to be part of the plot, right?
I think maybe later things suggest there's like we can discuss this all we want, but I feel that maybe she knew what Seal's end goal was, but she kind of gave herself up to the Ava in order to go against them later.
Oh, so she's like the ultimate savior.
Yeah.
She's the prepper.
Yeah, I think so. Like maybe she saw what her husband and, you know, that organization was trying to do.
So she understood both plots and decided to divert from both of them and put in her own scenario by injecting Shinji into the equation.
Which is essentially what the end of Ava is. It's like, you know, like that version of instrumentality is not according to either Gendo's or Seal's plan. It's Yui.
Yeah.
That's like her.
It's her.
It's her instrumentality. So
that's awesome. So okay. So they go down to Antarctica to experiment with Adam. And the whole purpose is that they want to bring back Adam to its embryonic state, right? So they want to reduce Adam to its embryonic state. because they planned for the third impact. So so
this is all in service of the third impact happening.
So the whole series, we were watching it and we're thinking that Nerve and Seal are designed to prevent the third impact from happening.
Yeah.
But in reality, they fully are the instruments of creating.
Yeah, they're actively trying to bring it about by defeating all of the angels you see throughout the series. That's like steps outlined in the Dead Sea Scrolls in order to bring about third impact.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So so we have the angels are one thing that I couldn't understand though was they want to create the third impact, and we definitely have a beef between Lilith and Adam, right? But what are the interests of the other angels coming onto Earth? Is that
I guess the intro explanation is that they have this natural drive to merge with another angel, I guess. But I'm not sure. That could also be what Seal is saying.
Yeah. Because my understanding is that if angels ingest another S2 drive from another angel, then they possess, essentially, they're gods. Right? That's one way to create a god, which is kind of like an entity with the same power as the entities who created us through the
it's the fruit of life, the S2 drive, like how they refer it in the show. Yeah.
So so we know that's interesting because so they go down to Antarctica, they fuck with Adam, and then now they are essentially planning for instrumentality, and they want the third impact to happen. And we know everyone wants it in their own way. Yeah. Seal, the organization, the Secret Cabal, which has all this information because they have the Dead Sea Scrolls, they want instrumentality, and they want everyone to go. Like, they want to become one. Right. Because the reason they want to become one is because if they do, then with the help of the Ava, right, the creation of an Ava, which is a crazy technological feat, and merged with unification through instrumentality, will create a god. And so they wanted to create a god that would live infinitely. So they wanted humanity to live forever. Which
without all of the flaws and like self-doubts associated with being individual beings.
Exactly. And they wanted because eventually the moon and the earth and the sun, even after they're destroyed, they wanted to continue beyond that time frame.
Oh, the quote from End of Ava, right?
Yeah. They wanted to
what
continue.
Yui says.
Yeah, so is that a goal worth achieving on Seal's end? I see there is some, it's actually not auto-destructive. It's actually they're planning for longevity, right? Mm-hmm. So Seal isn't necessarily 100% like suicidal. They don't just want to end themselves for the sake of ending themselves.
No, they want to transcend.
They want to transcend.
Yeah, they want to like step beyond humanity. That's what they want.
But Shinji's dad, Gendo, he doesn't want it for those reasons. He just wants to become one again with the source because he hates everything and everyone.
And he wants to see his wife.
Yeah. And not
knowing that his wife kind of went against him in a way. Yeah.
And then so those are the two active forces trying to bring about instrumentality, which is which I don't think we've broken down. We keep on mentioning the word, but what is instrumentality?
Well, it's like the end goal. Instrumentality is the event that drives all of the events of the show. Like everything is building up to this huge cataclysmic event, and it's just the merging of everyone into this one super consciousness. You're breaking down the barriers, as you said, of the tree of life. Just
So okay,
melting us all into one.
Yeah, we would melt all into one being, back into our original angel form.
Yeah. The primordial soup.
Right, the primordial soup.
Yeah.
LCL. What does LCL stand for?
There's no official meaning to it. Like some say, like, it's link, connect, liquid. But really, the main point of it is it just sounds like El Cielo.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's it. Like the acronym sounds like El Cielo. That's why they call it LCL.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
So instrumentality is the desire to end the fragmentation of life.
Lower those AT fields.
So then we need to. So this is the physical aspect of the show, right? But for us, the viewers, it would be the metaphysical aspect when we compare it to religious texts and these things. So, but in the show, there's a psychoanalytical version to this, and then that is the whole, the battle of life and the struggle of suffering, right? So this is the two main drives that are kind of combating inside of people when the everything's going down.
Right.
So from the beginning of the show, Shinji is just a fucking terrible character.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because it's just something that I talk about all the time. All the time I'm talking about what it is to want to be alive and what it means to conquer suffering and what it means to want to have the drive to continue, right? And how to accomplish that. And I feel like the show is one anime that is not appealing to the psyche of most of its viewers. As a matter of fact, it's like an in-depth analysis of what would be going on in a viewer's mind who's watching it.
Yeah, and that's always my defense of the character. Like, you can acknowledge that the character is a shit. He's a little shit, right? But intentionally so. Like, no, it's funny. Whenever, a lot of the times whenever someone says that they like Evangelion, like, a lot of the times it's like, oh, but I hate that main character.
Yeah. And I think the resentment behind hating the main character, ironically enough, it's those people who dislike themselves. and they see themselves in the character and they're like, oh, like, this is unpleasant. Like, I don't want to watch this. Like, like,
and like, this is what, and like an average, kid or with like someone with a childlike mentality would react in those kind of harsh circumstances.
Yeah. And, why watch a series with the same tropes that are provided by so many other animes, like this one's different. This one's trying to get you to kind of it's shedding light
I
on
think
that problem.
I think a lot of animes that are really popular, like Naruto, My Hero Academia. Not trying to throw shade on those shows, by the way. Like, I like My Hero Academia, but a lot of those shows are kind of like a really idealistic coming of age story.
Yeah.
This Evangelion is a coming of age story in a way, but depicted in a more realistic light with all of the harshness that goes with coming of age. Like, that process is not an easy one psychologically.
Yeah. And one thing also that I realized is Shinji as a developing character, he's battling with all this like self-doubt and all this stuff, right? And one thing that I realized is that anime, for the most part, like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto, it's really rewarding to the watcher. It's like, it's really misleading in a way. It's trying to tell you that everything is possible and that
idealistic.
It's idealistic. Yeah, it's almost as what the rest of anime is? The rest of anime is an alternate reality where people go to run away from their current reality.
To take a line from End of Eva, it's a substitute for reality.
It's a substitute.
Like that whole monologue, the live action segment, that's like a comment on that, right? It's like, what is a dream and what is this? It's like, what's wrong with having a personal dream? It's not a personal dream. It's just a substitute for reality.
Yeah. So to ingest material or storylines of fiction where the protagonist always gets the girl, the protagonist
he levels up,
all these things.
Performs like feats of physical greatness and then becomes a better person for it.
Yeah. So we get all of these tropes from all of these other animes that are unrealistic and I feel are perpetrating one of the biggest like in Japan, in the culture of Japan, the family aspect is like a strong one, like the strong father, the strict father.
From what I know,
the strict father and all these like stereotypes that we hear about, and the neglect that the children go through, being put through like you can say evolving into adulthood very quickly, and which is awesome because that's how we get like badass electronics, and excellent mathematicians, but the emotional neglect that they go through and the suffering aspect of life that it's hard for them to reach that understanding. And not just Japanese, of course, like everyone.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everyone that deals with a father like Shinji's father, who just goes to work, doesn't give a fuck, pretty much abandoned his kid, and and then it affects Shinji to a point where he wants to commit harm to others and himself,
Yeah.
And this whole story is about overcoming that.
Right.
That neglect that was passed down to him, and he didn't have a choice in that.
Right.
So for me, I would imagine that hits at home with a lot of people who go through that, right? And
we talk about all these people that say that they hate Shinji, but for every like 100 person that say that, there's like 1,000 people that are like, oh fuck, like I feel that, Yeah.
So we're breaking down what the essential plot argument, or the what would you call it, the
thesis,
the thesis, the battle is
the cruel angel's thesis.
Yeah, it's between how Shinji is going from not wanting to live and not wanting others to live, and how he turns that around at the very end.
Yeah, and at the very end, the very end.
Yeah, I mean, they should have done that like at the beginning, like, dude, how many chances did you get? Shinji had to fucking watch everyone die, had to die himself in order to realize that maybe dying is not that good.
But that's but in a way that's like saying, oh, someone who is as broken, as afraid, as pathological as he is, they would need that, right? They would need to actually go through the complete darkest depths of hell in order to somewhat realize that.
Yeah.
Because the very last shot, it still shows that he has a long way to go.
Yeah.
Which is immensely dissatisfying for the typical anime consumer.
Yeah. He, it shows the true nature of carnal existence. Like, as soon as he comes back from the LCL and reincarnates into his self again, into his ego, he immediately cannot handle it, and he just chokes out Asuka, the only other fucking human that is around. Like, what? What?
But progress. All right, I think we're like jumping far ahead.
Too far. So let's continue on this, or let's try to keep it in some kind of a timeline.
All right. Yeah, chronological.
So, we've already gone through the original plot arguments, the baseline of the show, right?
Yeah.
So now let's take a look at the progression of the show, and like from beginning to end, and how it progresses. So the first thing that we know is that there are angels that are descending down to Earth, and this is written in the Dead Sea Scrolls as well.
They come in a certain order.
In a certain order, and in a certain number of angels. I think it's like 15 angels. So and they never tell us who. While you're watching the show, they never tell you who the first or second angels are.
Right.
They only tell you that the third angel arrives, and they call that the first angel. So, because the first and second angels are Adam and Lilith.
Yeah.
So we're the first two angels, and then after that they descend, and the rest of the angels. And I got a sick ass list.
All right.
I got a sick ass list. So we got
true Ava fan.
I'm not a true Ava fan. So I want to talk about the angels, because the first angel is Adam, and obviously reference to Adam, and then Lilith, which is in reference to Eve, and then we got Sakiel or Sachiel, or however you would pronounce that. Is
the first one we see in the show.
The first one we see in the show. So, and all of the angels, the names actually mean something. And so, if we take a look, we're going to do a lot of Wikipediaing now. So, Sakiel right?
Yeah. You got it.
And you'll notice that it's always Ava.
Oh, look at that. That's the...
I don't want the Ava bullshit. I want the Archangel Sakiel.
Right.
Shapapow. There we go. So, oh look, that's a sick ass. Oh look,
Oh, damn.
he's literally stabbing people with long antenna-looking device. All right, so this dude, he's from a Jewish occult book, right?
Yeah.
That's, I mean, come on. Was that a name taken for aesthetic purposes, or was that placed there purposefully, right? And each one of the angels in the series has certain powers, and they can do certain things, right? And that's accurate to the description of the angel in Kabbalistic tradition, right? So
like the only thing I know is that like the angels in those ancient sources, they are very abstract, like the angels in the show are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like there's like what, flaming wheels or something, right?
Yep.
That's like one of them.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
And these are all from the Book of Enoch mostly. Most of these angels are from the Book of Enoch, which is one of the books inside of the Torah, which is fucking a crazy book, dude. Like, most people don't understand that when you read the Bible, like, people think Bible and they think, oh Jesus, and like, fucking,
right. We apply it to what's currently going on, right? Instead of going to the fundamental
dude,
meanings.
Like read the book. It's fucking science.
I haven't read it yet.
So and then all of the angels we got. So just to shorten the whole deal, we'll just put.
You're gonna get shit for that. It's all science.
It is, bro. If you read it, it's all metaphysical science. It has very little to do with any. It's not what people usually say. Oh, the Bible. That's a book written by old men. That's whack. Like, dude, like that's not it at all, dude. This shit was written like so long ago. So let's just go. Oh my god, I can't believe it. AvaGeeks.org. But I just want to see the angels in the thumbnails.
Right there. You got it.
Yeah. Sakiel. So that's the first angel, and then there's Shamshel, which is the arthropod angel. So that's a crazy like insectivore looking ass angel, right? And then so all of these angels, not all of them actually, some of them don't actually have definitions like biblical definitions. Mm-hmm. So they don't all have an actual relationship.
Like an actual equivalent.
Exactly.
Right?
Some of the angels are not like this one. It's called Matriel in some places, and Matarael and others. This angel it doesn't exist in any of the ancient scriptures. This is like maybe an additional, or it's still a piece of fiction. Like, I don't expect it to be like, oh my god, you missed one, Right. So it's crazy to compare these to the actual angels and how they compare, right? So here we see that this dude Tabri
Kaoru
is a vessel of Adam. Yeah. So in fact he's still just Adam, but he's like a vessel for Adam, right? And then here we are, humans. So this summary of angels, we don't have to break them all down, but essentially they are all related to the Book of Enoch, and they are all related to the same mythos or story or of creation that is all in the Book of Enoch, which is all in the first testament of the Bible, or the Torah, or whatever you want to call it. So this is all still within the same context, within the same belief, within the same confined ideologically. It's all the same deal, which is really awesome that's accurate in that way, for the most part, not precise, but whatever. So
there are some aesthetic liberties,
of course,
because it's an anime, of course, they gotta look cool.
So the angels are one aspect of it, and we know, they go on through all these battles with the angels, and they, are...
Yeah, really the structure of the show is kind of a riff on the typical monster of the week format. Or
what is that?
It's it's the typical structure of something like Power Rangers or even like shows like Supernatural, where every week they fight a new enemy. Right? Like every week, every episode has a new antagonist. So that the structure of the show is kind of a riff on that, like the typical Saturday morning cartoon.
That adds a lot of it adds a lot of flavor to it. Makes it ingestible. You could say.
There's another level you can see the show. It's like a metatextual level where it's commenting on its peers in terms of, what kind of show it is.
Yeah. So, if you could explain to us what you think about the main character, the caregiver for
Misato.
Misato, yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to know what you think about Misato and like what she represents.
Misato. Ooh. That's another like really, well, all of the characters are complex, but Misato, I feel that Misato is like an older version of, she's basically a woman child, right? Like how we have man children, like she's a woman child. Like she hasn't fully emotionally matured, yet she's competent as a military leader. And suddenly she thrust herself this role of motherhood, and she's kind of like the struggle of becoming a mother, even though she herself is not completely capable of that yet, which is why she, like her interactions with Shinji always have this air of like weird sexual tension.
The weird sexual tension is kind of like, whoa, that's just
it's Freudian. It's really Freudian,
and it there's really a lot of sex eye candy for like throughout the whole series. It's really freaking wild.
Well, sex eye candy, but also like sexual symbolism.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like
because sexuality is a fundamental part of existence. So
exactly,
of course they have to address that in the show.
And one of the really interesting things is that it's almost like a lot of the sex subjects are taboo in a way. Like they have the developing young girl who throws herself on what's that dude's name?
Oh, Kaji.
Yeah, old boy.
Yeah.
She's just like,
old boy.
And he doesn't even hit it or anything, which is like interesting to like that they would infer that goes on in people's like negative thoughts occur like that in people's consciousness,
Right.
And so the sex in the cartoon is interesting because it's 100% real. Like people think those things. Like if it were up to Shinji, he would smash all the women that were in his life. And in fact, during instrumentality, they're all he understands that he wants to be one with all of them.
Yeah,
right?
with all of them.
With all of them. Yeah. So he's not discriminating.
Yeah, because he's like a 14-year-old hormonal teenager. Like, of course. Yeah.
And another thing that about Misato, right? Yeah, that's her name.
Yeah, Misato.
Yeah, that's really cool is people like her whole character is all a farce. Yeah, the whole character of her interacting with Shinji is all psychological
like even like her theme song. Whenever you're in her apartment, it's like this like overly cheery kind of off-puttingly upbeat theme.
Yeah,
you know, it's like this feels weird. Like.
And that's because it's fake. It's a farce.
Yeah.
And she kind of diverts from her character here and there.
You can see little hints of like the face dropping until that night with Kaji. You kind of see like the barriers come down.
Yeah. And also like when she's like being all happy and they got the song playing, the quirky little song,
and she's drinking.
Yeah. And then right after Shinji walks out the door, she's like rings up. Oh yeah, make sure you got surveillance on Shinji. Make sure you know, like that's the character. She's playing it tough. She's a smart woman. Like how else would you explain that a woman in charge of like a whole operation, right?
Right.
And in charge of
her job demands that she put on that face.
Because she understands that these are hormonal teenagers, like you said, and she
but
gives them a little titty here and there, and and they're happy with that.
But I feel that's because herself is kind of like psychologically not developed. She's still she's still kind of like within herself. She's still kind of mentally a teenager also. but she puts on this face of like being this, tough commander and loving guardian and all that stuff.
Yeah, we see that in the instrumentality breakdown of her, right? And we understand that
when Shinji sees her and Kaji doing it.
Yeah. And we understand that truly it's the other way around. So in reality, she puts on a farce of weakness around the kids to create the environment she wants to control them.
Right.
But she's really a tough girl. And within herself, we know that is the opposite. That she acts like a tough girl, but really she's an underdeveloped teenager, still like wanting this basic human.
Exactly. Yeah, and still, recovering from the death of her father, and
which she also hated, and
is a parallel to Shinji.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then another thing to take into account with that character is all the cross symbology. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like that's part of her look, like that cross. That's important.
Yeah, she's got the cross. She's got the cross earrings.
She's got the scar.
She's got the scar.
Yeah,
she's got it all. And what do you think the cross represents in Evangelion? Because it's everywhere. Yeah, it happens when angels fucking explode. It happens when they shoot shit. It happens like all across the show. Like,
during instrumentality.
And that to me at first was really strange, because this whole thing has to do with the First Testament and Genesis and the reinterpretation of it, right? And I'm thinking, what does that have to do with Christianity? That's the Second Testament. That's something that isn't really talked about in the show, right? But it is, because the Spear of Longinus is related to Jesus. And there's crosses everywhere. And we know that Jesus died and was reborn. And we know all the story of Jesus.
Yeah.
And it can also be interpreted in the show. We also know Revelations is part of something that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And we know the Bible talks about Revelation and the end of times or whatever. Right. The sea runs red at the end of the show, representative of, the fucking destruction and all that. Right. So there is some Christian aspect to it as well. I think that is mostly for aesthetic, because I don't feel like it doesn't really fit the
common meaning of the cross, right? I feel that, here or there, like in the end of Ava, there's the obvious symbolism of like the burden. He's shouldering the burden. He takes the cross. I think that's pretty obvious, but
but there's a huge, an immense separation between Kabbalistic Book of Enoch and Torah traditions, the First Testament, which was written freaking a long time ago, before Jesus. We're talking about thousands of years before Jesus. And then we have the New Testament and Jesus Christ and Revelations in the end times, written relatively after Jesus' death, right? So it's AD. It's a much newer book, way newer. And a lot of people don't even really like the Second Testament because of how it's been manipulated over time. We don't know the truth of the Second Testament or where it comes from or how it was developed. So that, to me...
How do we know the truth about the old stuff?
Oh, because a lot of, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, and we have a lot of physical evidence for it. And also, there's a lot of storytelling in the First Testament that has been scientifically proven by our science, by today's dogmatic science standards, which is something else that's really fucking awesome. You know the scene in Evangelion where the second impact is happening in Antarctica, and the camera falls over.
Oh, yeah.
And it's recording them talking about the second impact.
Right.
And Seal is talking about, they're reviewing the footage, and they're talking about,
This is one of the best recap episodes of any anime, because it's a common trope within anime to do like this part we're gonna recap all of the events. This is like one of the best ones where they present it as like this case file.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really clever.
Yeah. And so and when the camera is falling over and Seal is talking about scientists, they refer to science as dogmatic. They say, look at these scientists. They're dogmatic. They believe their belief in science is worse than like religious beliefs and things like
something
this,
right?
Like that. Something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went, but essentially, and they say, and these are the humans that we entrust with the bringing of this and that, and it's like, because in the end, like, we all seek that dogma, you know, like scientists, as much as they want to present evidence as like fact and truth, and dismiss other fables and other stories as fiction, and they're very dogmatic, like the scientists of today. The show was representing that science can be dogmatic in that way. Science can discriminate against other possibilities. Just, you know.
Do you remember the name of the lower level of Nerve HQ?
No, what was that?
Terminal dogma.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Terminal dogma. Yeah, see, and that's just because we might have an innate understanding inside of us, in our DNA buildup, our genes, or whatever makes us us. We know these things. You know what I mean? Like, we know, like, the show is trying to imply that we know these things, that humans, no matter which avenue they choose to discovery, that it all leads to the same thing. Like, whether you use science for discovery or you use spirituality for discovery or whatever it is, it always will lead you back to the same thing. And another saying that I like is, I forgot where I recently saw this thing, but it says any science that is like good science is basically magic. Like, there's no differentiating, like.
Oh, it's a common idea. Yeah. You know, like science can get so advanced to the point that it's magic to us.
Yeah. Anything that science is basically information that cannot be explained. Like, and we consider it magic until we break it down and understand what it really is, and then we're like, oh, okay.
But that's what magic is. Magic is something that is unexplainable yet.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, so I like that part of the show because they're trying to also give you the parallel between dogma in science and dogma in religion, and they're saying that it's the same thing. And the SEAL organization, they know this because they have the book, you know, and they know everything.
They have the instructional manual, yeah.
So, that's kind of cool. And then, so there's so that's during the second impact, right? And then we have the angels come down, and we have the Misaru, the girl character, and then she has
Captain Katsuragi, yeah.
And is there anything that you want to add to, like, the whole sexual aspect of all these characters? Because she has a relationship with Kaji.
Yeah.
And Kaji is also a very interesting character, dude. Like, for a second, like, I was hoping that Kaji would while I was watching the show, I was hoping that he was going to be, like, something great, like a much greater pivotal point. Like,
they were kind of building up that character.
I thought he was gonna be Jesus or something like that.
Oh, you thought he was gonna be more important?
Yeah, I was like, oh, this dude, he's hiding something.
F in the chat for Kaji.
Yeah. And then he just gets smoked, like, you know, like.
But that's brilliant, right? Because, like, you kind of see, like, this secret agent type character. He's gonna get to the truth of this whole, like, instrumentality project, and a lot of the information that's presented within the show comes from him. He's the one to see the embryonic atom. He's the one that figures out the Marduk institutes the wing of Seal. He's the one that figures out their plan and relays it to Misato. But then with all that, he gets smoked by some rando. Like, we don't know.
But we do know one thing, that it wasn't a rando, because he knew who it was. He knew who it was, and I've always wondered who smoked him.
I feel like a lot of people debate that. Like, who smoked them? Who from CO smoked them?
I would like to know.
I say it's a rando because, like, I just find that more, like, poetic. That is just some guy that they sent over. Yeah. And, like, he probably just recognized him on an off day or something. But it could be someone that we know. Who knows?
Yeah, and then the plot, so some of the information is given to the children, like, for example, like, they never tell them what an Ava is, right?
No, they just tell them to get in it, and there you go.
They do tell them, they do disclose that the second impact is not what they published in the newspaper, and in the common...
Wait, do they? Do they tell the children that?
Yeah, in school. Yeah, and we figure out that the school is actually part of the
whole the school. Yeah. The school is just like a pool they pull from for Ava pilots.
Yeah.
No, I thought the thing they were being taught in school was that it was a meteor, wasn't it?
No, and so they say, they tell the kids, that the common, the established story is that it was a meteor, but that in fact it's not a meteor, that it was a human created incident. They don't say what it is. They just tell them it's not a meteor. It's actually it's actually a human created incident that happened in Antarctica.
Yeah. I don't remember that. I think I don't remember that because from what I do remember, when we get that information, the focus is not on the information, right? It's like you kind of see a shot of, I think, Shinji looking out the window, and you could just hear it in the background. Like the old guy is just, rambling to students that are not paying attention. Yeah. So I guess in that moment I wasn't paying attention.
You were the student?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know they tell him some things.
Yeah.
But most of the discovery is done by Kaji.
Yeah, and eventually Misato.
And eventually she puts it together and figures it out. And we know that Misato also has like a secret revenge plot against the angels. She hates the angels and she fucking wants to murk all of them, which is pretty awesome. She's another one of those strong characters, kind of like she's also one of the antithesis characters to everyone else who wishes for instrumentality.
Right.
She's one of those that does not wish for instrumentality. She wants to pursue life, right?
Yeah.
There's very few characters in this whole series that are like that.
Right.
It really comes down to her and Asuka, who are the main antithesis characters to the overall,
Right.
And
everyone in the show is working on their death drive.
Yeah. And for me, I relate to Asuka the most out of all the characters.
Asuka, best girl. You heard it here first.
Yeah, and it's not because I'm an egotistical maniac and I fucking want to crush everyone. It's not because of that.
Yeah.
But it's because she fights her suffering. She transcends her suffering by pursuing life, which is really amazing because she doesn't want to die. She gives people one thing that's also really awesome during the instrumentality breakdown of Shinji. Actually, it's not during instrumentality. It's during the moment that he gets stuck in the Eva and gets turned into he turns into soup or whatever for a little while.
Yeah, I think they said a few months.
A few months.
I think so. Yeah.
During that time that he's stuck in the Eva, he's having an out of body experience, right? And he's realizing things. And one of the things that he realizes is that Asuka is exactly what he needs, because in that experience, it's explained to him that he exists as himself, but the only reason he could see the boundaries around his self is because other people observe him. So he exists in himself, but he also exists inside of Asuka, and he also exists inside of everyone's perception that make him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, then that means that every time Asuka gives him that feedback that nobody likes Asuka because of the truthful, impactful feedback that she gives to everyone. She's not fucking bullshitting or fronting or anything. She's just like, hey,
she's extremely blunt.
Yeah, and then that she does it in order to combat her own insecurities and her own right. She does that for that reason.
Fundamentally, you can see all of the characters as refractions of Shinji.
Exactly.
Right? Shinji's the base character, and everyone else is just kind of an alternate Shinji. So Asuka, she's the anti-Shinji.
Exactly.
Because she feels deep down, she kind of has those same insecurities and those same pathologies, but she expresses it or overcomes them in a different way. Yeah.
And the fact that Shinji realizes that in the out-of-body experience, he realizes that Asuka, every time he's talking to himself in the out-of-body experience, Asuka is a character that he chooses in his own consciousness to tell him these rough facts,
right?
And he's just like, oh,
right, that's the mirror, the harsh mirror. Yeah.
She's the harsh mirror.
Yeah,
and I kind of, my drive is to be that. I want to be that mirror for people, so that's why I relate to her, because I want to be the truth mirror where everything that comes into contact with me is rebounded, so you can see yourself in me. And that's my whole purpose of living, probably, is that's my goal, is I want to provide the most truth for everyone, not for them, so that I can understand myself in others. You see, and it helps you evolve, and it helps you become a stronger person. It helps you transcend suffering. You know. And that's at the basis of her story is the same. She had an abusive family, and she's overcoming the same struggles. That's probably why she was chosen as a pilot.
Yeah, that too. Like, and the connection with the mother as well.
Yeah, with the mother, which I didn't actually know until I watched it again recently with you yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't understood that their mothers were in the Ava protecting them.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, what the fuck's going on? And then that makes sense why Unit Zero was always going berserk wild,
because Ray does not have a mother.
Yeah. And so that's why everything wanted to kill Ray every time she was either in it or outside of it. And it could see her. It was like, oh, fuck you.
There's a lot of theories about like if Ray doesn't have a mother, whose soul is in Unit Zero, right? Because like you still need that, like the Ava itself still needs some kind of like a psychic connection to the pilot. So who the hell is in that thing? And the theory that I like a lot is it's the first Ray, the one that got murdered by the scientist's mom.
By the scientist's mom.
Yeah.
What the fuck, man? When they revealed that plot, I was wondering, like, I put together the pieces, right? Like, in my head, like, as I was watching it, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, so the scientist, so Shinji's dad was fucking two girls at the same time, right?
Well, no. He started fucking the Dr. Akagi after the mom had given herself up to died.
Died?
Yeah.
Damn. See,
See,
and this scientist lady is like just tripped out. Like she's just tripped out, dude. Yeah. She chokes out a little girl.
Yeah.
But also the little girl, the original Ray. What is the explanation behind her creation? Because she comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They introduce her like in the show, and she's like, "Oh, here's Ray Ayanami, this little girl."
This is a child of my colleagues. I don't know. She's. I'm just gonna take care of her.
But she's a creation, right? A scientific creation, right?
Yeah.
So that she's an artificial human, essentially.
Yeah.
She's embodied.
She's supposed to I think they made her to be a vessel for Lilith.
Right. So she's a god.
Yeah.
And so Seal created the Atom version of her, right?
Right, which is Kaoru.
Which is Kaoru, right? And so Lilith, Ray Ayanami is the vessel for Lilith, right? Yeah. So she's essentially an angel, right?
And she's also made with biological material from the mom.
From the mom, yeah, which is a weird fucking... And they got clones of her underneath, and that's how she keeps on getting murked, and she just comes back to life. Yeah, they just keep on like bonding new parts onto her and shit. Like, so in the show they have one scientific truth that we might reach in our time, which is stem cell research and all these things leading to regeneration of bodies, you can say, and cloning and all these are all technologies that are well within our reach. Like this was written in the 90s.
Yeah.
So just imagine that. This is like a really like accurate like prediction about that. And another aspect that for me is like accurate prediction is when you look at when you look at the scientist girl. So the mom that choked out the girl. What's her name?
The mom is Naoko Akagi, and then like the daughter, the blonde one, is Ritsuko.
Okay, yeah, so the mom, right?
Yeah.
So she is so important as well to humanity. She creates the AI democracy.
The Magi.
The Magi, which again is another. This is crazy. The Magi is another Second Testament, or
the three wise men.
The three wise men, and then the names of the three wise men are accurate to the three Magi. The names of the three Magi.
Was it like Caspar, Melchior, and what's the other one?
It's a longer one.
Balthazar.
Balthazar. Yeah. So those three subjects, those are the actual names of the Magi. So, and then the cool thing about the AI is that it's fucking awesome, because I was watching and I watch a lot of things about AI, and what it could bring and things like this, right? Some people believe that AI could be, like in the Second Testament or Revelation, it is written that transhumanism, or the bonding of tools with humans, is what's gonna bring about the end of or the apocalypse, right? Only 144,000 people are gonna live.
Oh, right, with the numbers on their heads. Yeah.
Derivatives of the number 12 are symbolic in the Second Testament, and the derivatives of the number 7 are symbolic in the First Testament. And those numbers are throughout the series, through the Ava series. Like they're everywhere. Like Seal's badge has 7 eyes in it.
Oh yeah,
and,
like that famous triangle with the 7 eyes.
Yeah. And then like every time you look at the show, all the numbers are either 7 or 12 or derivatives of it. And they also
this is something I didn't notice.
Yeah, if you watch it, you'll notice that all the numbers are derivatives of 7 or 12. Very biblical. And then also the 666 to describe the floor that in the end times.
in End of Ava, yeah, like when Misato collects Shinji, right? Like at that point.
Yeah, when she collects him there, and when he's going through his hell on Earth. Yeah. And when he doesn't want to live, this is the roughest time he has on Earth is in the 666th floor of
Nerve HQ.
Nerve HQ. Yeah. And also we get 666 as the protocol command that is put around the Magi to protect it from the hacking. Also in the End of Ava. Yeah. So there's a lot of 666 going on in the End of Ava, which is a sign that it's telling you that Neo Genesis Evangelion is the First Testament, literally Genesis reinterpreted. But the End of Ava is not. See, the End of Ava is the Second Testament.
I see.
The coming of the apocalypse.
Like the rapture.
Yeah, the rapture. Yeah, that is what the End of Ava represents. That's why they give you the 666. That's why they give you the
mass-produced. That's
Avas.
why you get the symbolism of Shinji bearing the cross.
That's why you get the bearing the cross. That's why the mass-produced Avas are the Reaper angels that come down to wreak fucking hell on Earth, like that. Those fucking badasses, and they're white and they have wings.
Yeah, that's pretty on the nose.
That's on the nose.
That's really on the nose.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is, and their only purpose is to do that, right? Of course, in the Bible, it doesn't say that they're human productions, but,
right? Like that. That's the part of the Ava storyline.
Yeah, and that's fine. Again, it does not need to be like
completely
canon. Exactly.
Accurate.
We're not watching a fucking remake of Jesus Christ.
No, this is a reinterpretation after all.
Exactly. A scientific interpretation. This is my favorite part of the Ava series, is that they combine old stories and they combine it with science into this new fable of what the producer could imagine how it could unfold in our times. You see, this is one way it can unfold in our times, just one interpretation. So so we know that that's this, or at least in my opinion, that is more of a Second Testament coming in the End of Ava, right? But it's cool because the Magi is one of those representations for me, the 3 wise men. And because I think a lot about AI, and one of the problems that we've had as humanity recently is trying to figure out, they call it the singularity, when AI becomes sentient and we create a being that is more powerful than our consciousness.
That kind of makes us obsolete. Yeah.
Exactly. So one of the dilemmas in that is that we don't know whether to create it as its own entity where it can maybe overpower us and destroy us. That's the number one, like, fictional fear or whatever, right? And then
that's the trope that a lot of all of these AI gone haywire stories rely on.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And then we have the I was watching Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about AI, right? Yeah. And his suggestion is that we merge with it, that we become transhuman, that we implement AI into our consciousness so that way it doesn't leave us behind and leave us to be obsolete. And that makes a lot of sense, right? From his perspective, that's the best solution. But according to the Second Testament, that's the worst solution. That's what leads to
That reminds me. Did you see like a lot of memes? Like they've been memeing Elon Musk forever, but one of the many memes that has come up on him is that he's Gendo. Like
Exactly.
they Photoshop like the glasses and the beard on him, and it's like Elon is Gendo.
Yeah, damn. It's exactly right, because his idea of merging with AI is that. But look at the series has created a much better solution, one that I would have never even thought of until I watched the series. And that is to create 3 AIs with the same capability, but they don't have the power to act. They're limited to just processing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
They're just like brains in a jar.
yeah, and then they vote. And then we take their vote, right? And then the vote of the 3 magi also represents the Holy Trinity, in my opinion, which is the and she describes it a little bit in the series where it's 3 parts of her mother.
Yeah,
right?
like her as a scientist, a woman, and a mother.
And a mother. Yeah. So
yeah.
in Christianity, it would be the Holy Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Son. Right? It's the same thing. So so when we look at the AI magi, so I just thought it was amazing that the director of this series created his own version of what would be the ideal AI, which would be a democratic AI, where we take the 3 votes, and then we, by unanimous decision, decide whether to act on the votes, right? But it's very difficult to go against them because they're almost always right. So,
right.
Yeah, and we protect the magi at all costs, according to the series, and. Yeah. That's really awesome. That's the breakdown of the Magi is one of my favorite parts of the series.
That's kind of like an offhand comment in the show, right? Like, all government processes are determined by the Magi, also, right?
Exactly.
Like they kind of just say that.
Yeah, they do just say that.
Yeah,
and it's
interesting.
Dope. Yeah, and then they also explain the delay between the general government.
Oh
and actually their weak disposition as well, like
right.
They like their machines are like garbage.
Oh, that's right, the whole Jet Alone episode.
Yeah,
the JA episode where they travel to the what is it, the UN or something.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's also the fleet of
the battleships.
The battleships.
Asuka's introduction episode.
Exactly. Yeah, and then
what a way to introduce her! Like that famous image of Unit 2 fucking stepping atop of a Navy ship is like, this shit is my platform.
Yeah. Because that's essentially what it was.
Yeah.
And that just shows you how weak general governments are, like compared to like what's actually going on, right? And so that I thought was really awesome that they portrayed that weakness and also the delay. Like we find out in the end, right when instrumentality is about to go down and everything's about to go to shit.
The prime minister just found out.
Yeah, he just found out about it. And he's like, oh yeah, we'll just cancel their budget. Like, dude,
this is beyond budget now.
Yeah, it's too late, bro. You know? And that's something that's really funny because like that's what our governments are now. They're weak. They're delayed.
It's just a bunch of bureaucratic red tape.
Yeah, and they don't ever do anything, and they're just everything is slow moving, and another slow moving aspect when the autonomous self-core Ava, the mass, it's some other country produces an Ava. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but it has a nuclear core.
Yeah, that's Jet Alone. That's what it's called.
Oh, that's what you were just referred to. Yeah. Right.
Like the thing that just keeps moving forward.
Right, and then and they call the government up to get permission to disable it.
Oh yeah.
And then they're
just waiting.
And they're just passing the line along to other people. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to get permission from this dude because I can't give you permission. Like. That's exactly what would happen today. Some shit happened. Like,
dude, and that came out in the 90s.
Yeah, that's what came out in the 90s, and they knew that this shit was going to go this way, you know?
Little aside, but still kind of related. Like, this is why I recommend, because you like Evangelion, you should watch Shin Godzilla. Because that's a major theme of that movie. Same director, same writer. So he makes that comment about how bureaucracy handles disasters. And it's amazing. Like, Shin Godzilla is awesome. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, no. And Japan, I mean, they have had disasters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they know. They know. Like they've had. It's like this is just crazy to think how much nuclear shit has gone on over there.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know, or this was made in the 90s. But the whole earthquake and the Fukushima leak and all that stuff, like, man, they really they really have good excuses for creating this kind of content, cause
right, like it comes from a genuine place.
Yeah, and I'm sure that where what's the producer's name?
Hideaki Anno.
Yeah,
like
sure,
Anno, Anno-san.
When he where he grew up, I'm sure it was dystopian looking like that.
It was a lot of the imagery. Like there's a famous special about him that aired on like TV Tokyo, I forget. But it's like him going back to his hometown and teaching kids about animation. It's a really nice special. But you get to see those shots, and it's like, wow, that looks like, the streets of Tokyo 3. It's crazy.
Yeah, and not only, I mean, and then I'm sure survivors of those events, our doing,
it reminds me, it's funny, like the whole I think it's Unit 3 storyline. You remember when they mentioned Nevada was making their own unit, and when they did, it fucking disappeared.
Yeah.
It's like a little story revenge on America.
Yeah. But you know what's funny about that? About the revenge plotline? Look at the description of the powers of the world. So they have.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They have Western powers.
Yeah.
Right, and they're weak.
Yeah.
And then they have Axis powers. That's what we call them, the Axis powers. And it was who? Germany and Japan. What?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same story. You know?
That's why Nerve has so much power in this universe.
Yeah. And so the Axis powers we know good old Hitler. He studied all this stuff. He knows all about this stuff. Hitler was out searching for the Ark of the Covenant and doing crazy occult things in his day, and so maybe there's some, correlation to why they chose the Axis powers as their main storyline.
Like maybe, maybe not consciously, but like that whole history is deeply ingrained within that.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's so crazy because they do represent the government's pretty accurate, And then the whole thing, this is another, I don't know if it's a theory that people have looked into or is it canon or whatever, but have you noticed that the robot, the jet, what was it?
Jet Alone.
Jet Alone, yeah. So did you notice that it was hacked and someone had done that?
Yeah.
And then they reveal that...
it was Gendo.
It was Gendo.
Gendo's all according to plan.
Yeah. So Gendo destroyed that subject for obvious reasons because he wants full control of all Evas.
Yeah.
Right? And he doesn't want any alternative Eva to be created. So that thing could have had potential to be the savior of humanity against the angels.
Which is what they were thinking when they created it. But no, the Evas were created to bring about
destruction. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the first clue right there. But there's no way I would have figured that out until the end. Like, you know what I mean? But like, that was a clue. Like, look, this is a real one for defending humanity.
Yeah.
Destroyed. Here's
and
one.
It's run on a man-made source, nuclear power.
A man-made S2 drive, brah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And then the fact that this is my theory, and I don't know if there's any evidence supporting this theory, but the fact that the Nevada project disappeared, also Gendo seem to have known about that shit pretty well. You know what I mean? Like,
highly questionable.
Yeah, I think he also did that.
Yeah,
and I think he wanted that Eva, so he fucking disappeared everyone in order to gain access to it. But then this is the cool part about the Eva. About that, what unit Eva is that?
I think that black one that gets taken control over the angel. I think that's Unit 4.
Unit 4. Okay, so Unit 4.
And 4 is the number of death in Japan. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Unit 4 is the black Eva, right?
Yeah.
And you notice that when they're transporting it from America to Japan, the airplane flies through a cloud or whatever, and it becomes electrified. And that's for me. That was the symbol of. That's when the angel took control of the Eva. Yeah. That's how the angel got into it, and it was the fucking perfect plan, right? Take control of the Eva, and then put a pilot in it. Now the angel has full control, full power, right? Super powerful Eva or whatever. It took it took Shinji going berserk to defeat it, right?
Yeah.
And
one of the best scenes in the show. Fuck. He tore that shit up.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no, I'm wrong. It didn't take him to go berserk.
It took the Eva itself to go. It wasn't him.
It was Gendo.
Oh, the dummy plug.
The dummy plug, yeah. It was Gendo who took control of it and fucking made his son watch him murder
his friend.
That
was rough.
That's a rough one, man. And, you know, if Gendo, if it wasn't portrayed that he was an evil bastard at that point, you know, what else would it
like
take?
That solidified it, yeah.
Yeah, like that's it right there. Like Gendo's not good.
Yeah.
You know, he's crazy. And, you know, so we know that happened. And so one thing that I always never figured out, like throughout watching the whole series, is what was so we know Gendo wants instrumentality, but I had no idea why he had that thing in his hand.
Oh, Adam, the embryonic Adam.
Oh, so that's what it is.
Yeah, like you know, we see Kaji presenting the embryo to Gendo, and then a few episodes later, you see that same thing in his hand.
I didn't see that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like the same design, like the circular thing with like an eye. Yeah, it's the same thing in his hand.
What do they call it? A cochlea or whatever?
Yeah. It's the same. Yeah. That's the whole thing. He merged himself with the embryonic Adam.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
So,
which is why he, you know, at the end he puts his hand in Rey to merge, but then, you know,
but she denies.
Yeah.
She denies.
She denies.
So yeah, all of these parallels between our reality, right, and this fictional reinterpretation are you know, pretty awesome. It's crazy because how can it be overlooked? That's what the first thing in my mind comes to my mind. Like other people, what do you think about other people's perception of Evangelion? Like, what do you think the common perception of it is? Like for the fans.
Okay. Yeah, I could speak a little bit to this because as a high school student watching the show, yeah, I saw it superficially. I saw it as a really... I remember my original opinion on the show is that, oh, you know, the first half of the show was good because the giant robot battles were really awesome. And then toward the end, when it gets all crazy, it's conspiratorial, that's where it lost me. That was my first opinion on the show. And I feel a lot of people share that opinion. Where it's like on the surface level, it's a decent Monster of the Week show, right?
Yeah.
But then once its true face is shown, that's when people reject it, and everyone hates the congratulations ending, right?
Oh yeah.
Everyone hates the congratulations ending, but rewatching it, I feel that's a pretty good ending.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good ending, but the end of Eva tops it. But that one was a decent ending.
Yeah, it was a good ending. You know, it was a shortcut. You know?
It was a shortcut for. You know, budgets. You know, do you know how they lost money?
No, I don't.
From what I remember, it wasn't the fact that they had a Saturday morning slot and it was aired to children. It wasn't the fact that Ava Unit 1 ripped Unit 4 to shreds on TV. It was, I think, what did it for them, what made sponsors pull out, was when they implied that Masato and Kaji were having sex.
Yeah.
I think that's what did it. I think that's what made sponsors pull out, and that's why they ran out of money toward the end. And
But hey, you know, individuality and artistic creativity are important, man. Look at it's way more long-lived as a series. We're watching it now, freaking 20-some years later.
And people are excited about it.
Yeah, and that is because of the creativity aspect. He took a gamble, and he said, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe he had it planned all along, you know?
No, he did. He definitely did. That the end of Ava was definitely planned from the beginning. A popular misconception about the show is that they were kind of writing the show on the seat of their pants, like as they went along because of the budgetary problems. But no, he had a plan all along at the beginning.
Yeah.
And there are some shots in those original two episodes, the original finale and the show, that show you that he had End of Ava planned. You see Masato's body, like, in the same position she is in End of Ava. You see Dr. Akagi's body floating in the sea of LCL.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you see all of those images. So he had it planned. He just couldn't do it to the fullest.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So coming back to the original... the
original
thought that we were just describing. You know, the average perception of
Yeah.
of Evangelion, and so you said you watched it as a kid and you watched it in a superficial way.
Yeah.
I imagine when you got to the whole out of body experiences that was also strange, right?
It was really strange. It was like, what is happening? What is the show?
Very psychedelic, and
Yeah.
the imagery is just like
Exactly. It
buck
was
wild.
like really like not like I couldn't even process it. And End of Ava, forget about it, man.
End of Ava's wild, man. It's
Yeah.
like it's a little bit of action, and it's all everything else is just
Yeah, first half is like on the ground plot, like you understand it on a superficial way. Second half, that's the instrumentality part of it is like, whoa,
it's mind blowing.
it's mind blowing, and I couldn't completely comprehend it at the time. But now, watching it as a 25-year-old, it's like, wow, okay, I understand this now. Holy shit!
What do you think about the perception of Evangelion as superficially? Is it worth? So we know that money is a big factor in making anime and
Making
monetizing
anything,
something,
yeah.
and creating content and stuff like that. So,
Merching it out.
So do you think that bastardizes the series in a way and the understanding of it, or is it just another part of it? Like, is it?
I think, I don't think it bastardizes it. Like I'm in a way I'm grateful for all this merch, not only because I like buying it, but because it keeps this this message alive, like in today's society. But also, I feel that it's ironic, it's funny in a way because the show was made to be a deconstruction of those kind of merch heavy super robot shows. But then eventually it became that. It's like, whoa, that's hilarious.
That is funny.
Yeah.
So let's. This is. We've already gone through the whole breakdown. I think we did a pretty good job of describing.
I mean,
the
there's
pieces.
There's a lot more to go through, but
for the most part.
Yeah.
So let's do a recap of reality and what the show represents in the real world. So we know that there's a manga that created the show, right? Am I right? Yeah.
No. It was anime first.
Anime first, manga second?
Yeah. The manga is actually a reinterpretation of the show, and some plot details happen differently. But I don't think it was written by the original writer.
Yeah. So there's a manga, there's the show, and then there is
a bunch of games.
Yeah. Right. Then there's the pachinko version of it.
Yeah. And most importantly, the rebuilds.
The rebuilds, which I'm excited to watch, I guess. So I haven't seen any of them. So.
And the final one comes out next year, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we'll definitely watch that and maybe give
talk
our 2
about
cents
that
on that. Yeah. So
I'm curious about what you think about the rebuilds because they do move a lot of stuff around. It's the same story, but then there's pieces that are rearranged, and to what end I don't know yet.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah.
So we know that, or at least from the little bit of research I did, that the series made its money mostly in the pachinko game, which is like the gambling stuff going on in Japan. And and
everyone has like every big franchise has a pachinko machine, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And did you know they also made like some hentai stuff?
Like officially sanctioned hentai?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, they made some of that stuff too.
Nice.
Yeah, and they have some pretty like rated R games as well. Like
like hentai games.
Yeah. So they have some of that stuff. And then they have a train also, right? Like or they had a train.
They had a train,
one of those bullet trains.
Like a little promotional thing, I think.
Dude, we don't do none of that shit in America. Like, when is one of our cartoons on a fucking high-speed bullet train that the government like the government the government allowed for them to put Ava on the train.
That's insane.
It's insane how big of a freaking thing this is.
Yeah.
And how like the storyline is injected into it. That's the part that really trips me out. Like this storyline is in there, Like
this kind of story is a huge like marketing entity, like how Star Wars is over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's as big as that in Japan, which is insane.
It's insane, dude.
Yeah.
And our stories, I feel, are just so much more, I don't know, they just...
Would you say would you say shallow?
Yeah, exactly.
Like
Yeah,
shallow?
I wanted to say that's the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. Our
basic.
stories are we have very shallow stories when it comes to our superheroes and our, but Jordan Peterson would disagree. He thinks that they're archetypal and that those are the
No, it is. It's true to an extent that it's archetypal, but then you could be exploring a lot more things with them besides that, I guess superficial archetypal story. Like those archetypal stories can say so much, which is what Evangelion shows us.
Yeah, definitely, man. So, hey, I think we did a pretty good job of breaking this down. I have no idea how long we've been streaming for now at this point.
I was into it, man. I melted. I became one with this conversation.
You went back to the LCL.
I went back into the LCL, man.
And all our jokes, man, all of my jokes have been Ava jokes for like the past week.
Just like whenever I see a character going through some like out of body psychological experience, it's like, oh, he's experiencing instrumentality.
Yeah. Or wishing death and all these things. Yeah, it's all the same deal. And it goes back to the same thing, man. Like, I've been criticized so heavily on the internet every time I engage people on the subject of suicide. It's happened to me. So I've been blocked several times on the internet. I've gone to Facebook jail several times for speaking on the subject of suicide being selfish and weak and these things.
Yeah.
And all of these, there's like a new culture that's kind of like protecting that way of thinking, you could say. Like, we know
kind of stepping around it, right?
Yeah. It's almost as if they want to apply kind of like a description to it, and they want to consider it a disease of some sort, like a mental illness, and they want to give people support who are dealing with this kind of problem, right? And I think this movie is great because it's really truthful. The series and the movie is truthful to what the but what the inner lying of the problem is, the true root of it, and that the only way to solve it is by going in there and doing the hard work.
Really going through hell. And, a lot of people like to point this out, but during the show's production, Hideaki Anno himself was suffering through depression.
Yeah, exactly.
So who better than to kind of, like, it was his way of working through that.
Exactly. And I think that's really amazing because it's way different from our perception of how to deal with depression, which is usually, medication and all of this. Like, this is really strange. Medication is one thing, and the other thing that I find is really counterproductive to battling depression is all of this surface level positivity. Like, oh, you just gotta be positive, and you just gotta boo, like, be positive. Like, that doesn't really do anything, Like, it's not getting to the problem, the source,
Right, the bottom of it.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot from the show, man. I've learned so much from it, and it kind of solidified a lot of my already intrinsic thought on the subject. And I'm glad that something else is out there and is highly visible and marketable and all these things that agrees with my point of view, because I didn't really have anything like that before.
Yeah, that like like in our circle, I guess you were known as like the anti-franchise guy. Like all these big franchises we see here, like Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all that stuff. It's like you don't like any of it. And and it's understandable, but like this is as big as that in Japan.
As big, if not bigger.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. And it's really awesome, man, because it's finally something that I experienced that is like on par with like my beliefs and things like that. It's just pretty cool. And I'm not trying to throw shade on all the other
right. Like I like the Marvel stuff. I like the DC stuff, and all that. But
yeah, I can't say I do. You've seen me sit in the movies.
Oh yeah.
Before.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It makes me anxious. I can't
you
deal
sweat.
with it.
You want to get out. I got to use the bathroom like 10 times.
Yeah, dude. Like I just can't do it. I don't know. Something in me.
It doesn't help that all those movies are fucking long too. Right?
Yeah. They're all super long.
They're all really long.
It's crazy, dude. I feel, I think that's what puts me off is I feel like I'm running away from reality by putting myself in these alternate universes, learning about these characters, investing myself in the character and in its life and like,
And I guess you feel that there's no like, it's not applicable to real life, right?
Exactly, yeah. I feel like it's an alternate reality. I've always disliked any escapism. Yeah,
which is what Evangelion, like one of the core themes, is anti-escapism.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's important for me. It's really important for me if content reflects that, because that's the truth. And I'm all about truthisms and truth and reality and grounding myself in what is here. So I'm really happy that there's something out there like that.
Yeah, and to like lift your spirits up even more. Like after watching the show, after like diving deep into it, you can actually see its influence everywhere. Yeah, it even influences our American media too. Evangelion, like like even if it's in a superficial way, like Spider-Man, like the new Spider-Man, his suit is a plug suit. It's loose. Pushes a button, whoop!
It sucks up.
Yeah, like that. Like those guys watched Ava somehow.
For sure.
Yeah, somehow.
For sure, yeah.
And then you could like the imagery and other animes that are within the same vein.
Yeah, I hope that some other stuff. I hope people get some inspiration to maybe create more stuff like that because it's really awesome.
No, there definitely is. There's another show a lot of people talk about that I like. Not as I guess symbolically rich as Ava, but kind of close. Madoka Magica.
I haven't seen that one, no.
It's basically what Ava is to giant robots. That one is to the magical girl genre, like Sailor Moon and all that. So it's kind of taking a hit at that genre.
And there's another one that's also very apocalyptic that was also released on Netflix that I watched. I forget the name of it, but it's a dude and he turns into a demon. And
Devilman,
yeah.
Oh, dude.
Devilman is great too. Dude.
Like Devilman, that story is from the 60s.
Yeah. It's from the 60s. And again, it's very biblical. It's it has all the same elements. I like that one.
Like I'm pretty sure Hideaki Anno watched Devilman or read Devilman.
Or read it, yeah. It's older.
It's way older.
Yeah, see. So I mean, as opposed that to me attracts my attention way more than all of the superficial stories. But I understand that there's a need for that stuff too.
Yeah.
There's a need.
Like that's why it exists. Like there's a market for it, and people,
Yeah, that's the beautiful part of the free market is that people decide what they want to watch, right? I just unfortunately I don't really like where our media is going now, like with like all of the Marvel remake stuff coming out and all of these Trinity movies for all of these like Avengers and all this stuff and it's all getting really multicultural and like really I feel like it has a different
would you say that the agenda presented by these new movies, it's kind of like forcefully injected?
Yeah, that's the problem with it is that I don't think it's anything that the public actually wants. Like who's giving the stuff to us? Who's deciding that we want to watch this stuff?
As opposed to something like Ava, where it speaks fundamentally to what humans are. It's not about some superficial political agenda.
Exactly. So changing Evangelion to make it like, or imagine that it was released on Netflix and they changed it so dramatically that it was just annoying to watch. That would suck, right?
Oh, dude.
Isn't that what's happening to Marvel and DC and all these things? Aren't they just changing it all up so that it's difficult to watch?
The comic books mostly, but then, it's gonna eventually get into the movies as well, where they kind of force this political agenda into it, which, I just want to make it clear that, like, all this liberal stuff, it's not inherently bad, but the fact that you're just injecting it into a story which doesn't need it, it's like, Evangelion is like that. It's kind of like that sugar-coated pill, right? It's like on the surface, it's like it's really eye candy. The animation's great. The giant robot fights are spectacular. It's marketed as like this escapism show.
Yeah.
But then you watch it,
and the pill dissolves.
You take that medication.
The pill dissolves, and
right.
You're like, oh.
Yeah. Like as opposed to what's going on right now in American media, where it's like a sugar-coated placebo, where it's like, oh, we're telling you this is good for you.
No, I would take it one step further. I would say it's also a sugar-coated pill, but the content is that forceful ideology. Yeah. You're like taking the sugar pill. It's like Avengers and cool stuff, and then in the inside it's like, oh no, ideologies.
No. Damn.
No, that's just that. We're veering off course now, talking about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, but that's what Ava does. Like,
that's what Ava does.
Ava's like the center of this fucking cultural impact.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm really happy that you're on the podcast with me. I'm talking about this.
I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, let's put in some plugs for you. So, of course, I don't, for everyone that doesn't know, Jobbythehong.
Toy review channel.
Awesome channel. Go check it out. It's one of my favorite channels. Original content.
Dude. Thanks, man.
It's, I'm being honest, you don't have a large following for no reason. Like, all of your content is true to its nature, and you've always stayed true. And even if YouTube...
Well, I try to stay true to myself. I don't want to get, absorbed in the whole... like the stream that YouTube is currently traveling.
Yeah. So even if YouTube changes or technology changes and takes it different direction, you're still hanging on there, and it shows
the channel is my Ava.
Yeah, the channel is your Ava.
It's my Ava. After the sun, the moon, the stars are all gone, I'll still be here.
Yeah, you got that AT field.
AT field's up, man. Oh, definitely. Like, I'm gonna talk more about Ava going forward.
Yeah, too. Man. So, check out Jobby's channel, YouTube,
YouTube.com/Jobbythehong.
Jobbythehong. Yeah. Check him out on Twitter, Instagram, and everywhere else. And, and as for this podcast, this is episode number 2. So we'll also try to do some more things related to these subjects.
Yeah.
Not necessarily anime and things like this, but anything that has to do with truth.
Right,
and
it just so happens that Evangelion deals heavily with that, so we can talk about it. Yeah.
And so this podcast might seem like it's all over the place, but there's a lot of things that are true, and that's why I called it Real Vibes, because this is
real vibes, no script.
This is all about truth and getting to it, and showing what we believe. And you come from, for all you guys that don't know, this is my brother-in-law as well.
Yeah.
So, and you come from my hood, and
that's right.
we all live in the same place, and we understand this. This is another thing. Like, South LA is great, man, and I want to bring more attention to creators that are in the area. So, I'm really grateful that...
You just doxed me, bro.
No, I didn't.
No.
South LA is big, man.
No, that's true.
But what I was trying to say is, I'm happy to see creators come from here and do something, and hopefully I can, do something like that myself.
Yeah, and get more people.
Yeah, it just gives me inspiration to watch anyone pull up from nothing and become something amazing like your channel. So again, thanks again.
Thank you.
We're gonna freaking
thank you for
end this podcast and fucking stop these damn dogs from barking. And we out.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.